Some major breaking news here as it relates to Trump's biggest asset, his handling of the economy. And just for fun, here's Fox News' Maria Bartiromo breaking that news.
Of course, President Trump is talking about this bill leading to growth in the economy. We are waiting any moment now to get the jobs numbers for the month of May. The expectations call for the ADP numbers to be up 95,000 for the month of June, rather. It's the June jobs data, and we'll, of course, right now seeing the number actually show a decline in jobs, down 33,000 on ADP.
The expectation for jobs added in the private sector was roughly 100,000. Instead, the private sector lost 33,000 jobs. In fact, this chart shows that while Donald Trump inherited quite the robust private sector growth from Biden, starting with his first full month in office, jobs numbers began to falter before ultimately dropping into the negative, which is where we're at right now. This is the first time since March of 2023 that private payrolls decreased, and comes in advance of tomorrow's jobs report that expects the unemployment rate to rise from 4.2% to 4.3%, so again, another move in the wrong direction. We saw personal incomes drop last month for the first time in 4 years, and of course we also watched as the US GDP contracted 0.5% in the first quarter, making the United States the only industrialized country on earth with a shrinking economy. And by the way, that contraction was before the full breadth of Donald Trump's tariffs really kicked in, which means that we'll likely see another economic contraction in Q2, and 2 straight quarters of a shrinking GDP means that we would officially be in a recession, which would be the first since our last recession, also during Donald Trump's first term. And before that was George W. Bush, and before that was George H.W. Bush. Are you starting to notice a trend here? And what makes this even more ridiculous is that we were sold on this idea from Trump.
The golden age of America begins right now.
The golden age. Right. Either he was lying, or I didn't understand that what he meant by golden age was lost jobs, less income, negative growth, and a likely recession. But go ahead, take all the time you need with that one. And yet, despite all of these very obvious, very glaring warning signs, Republicans have trotted out a brand new talking point that the growth that Donald Trump is ushering in is going to be huge. Trump himself posted, "Nobody wants to talk about growth," which will be the primary reason that the big, beautiful bill will be one of the most successful pieces of legislation ever passed. This growth has already begun at levels never seen before. Trillions of dollars are now being invested into the USA more than ever before. Likewise, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs are filling up the coffers of Treasury. The tariff money has already arrived and is setting new records. We are growing our way out of the sleepy Joe Biden mess that he and the Democrats left us, and it is happening much faster than anyone thought possible. Our country will make a fortune this year, more than any of our competitors, but only if the big beautiful bill is passed. As they say, Trump's been right about everything, and this is the easiest of them to predict. Republicans, don't let radical left Democrats push you around. We've got all the cards and we're going to use them. Last year, America was a dead nation with no hope for the future, and now it's the hottest nation in the world. Make America great again. So let's think about this logically for a moment. Trump says that the real rocket fuel for our economy and our country is going to be the growth that comes from this budget bill. But what does this bill actually do? It keeps in place massive tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires, but those tax cuts already existed based on the 2017 tax bill. So other than making permanent those tax cuts, nothing is changing on the economic front. So if the economy is shrinking now, how is a bill that will keep in place existing tax cuts suddenly going to lead to an explosion of growth? Unless, of course, kicking 17 million people off of Medicaid is going to do it. Stripping food assistance away from 3 million Americans is going to do it. Eliminating school meal access for 18 million kids. Substantially raising healthcare premiums for seniors who have ACA coverage. I mean, honestly, which provision of this bill is going to lead to an explosion of growth beyond the existing tax policies? Because all I'm seeing is a continuation of those tax cuts for the wealthiest people on earth and the elimination of essential lifelines that most vulnerable Americans rely on to survive. In fact, that's a point that Aaron Ross Sorkin asked Republican Majority Whip Tom Emmer today, and you are going to be knocked on your ass when you hear his justification for why the economy is suddenly going to go gangbusters despite extending the same economic policies that we already have in place.
Why are we currently not getting 2.8% growth today with the assumption if the CBO is at 1.8 and the administration's at 2.8, and part of what we're talking about here is extending the tax cuts that are already in place. And yes, you're going to capture no tax on tips, and maybe that'll drive some of this. But what is going to get you to the 2.8 number?
It's Donald Trump. Donald Trump and this legislation. Keep in mind, we've had 4 years of disaster under Joe Biden. Donald Trump has only had a little less than 6 months to try and fix this thing, and already you've seen enormous changes. In the CBO, by the way, 1.8% growth is what they projected over the next 10 years. This country has never had less than 2% growth in any 10-year period. So be careful of the numbers that these insiders put out, because bottom line is we've seen it all throughout history. When you give Americans more of their hard-earned money, when you give them more freedom to make new things happen, they not only improve their own lives, but the rising tide lifts all boats. And that's what this country's all about, and that's what's going to happen with this legislation.
Who could have guessed? The silver bullet, the magic weapon, according to Tom Emmer, is Trump. Trump merely existing is going to send the economy skyrocketing and jobs booming and wages rising, and men will run faster and jump higher. It is impossible to claim that you are not a cult of personality for Trump when you say shit like that. But the reality is that Donald Trump is already in office, and only since he's been in office has our economy struggled. The guy loves to shit on Joe Biden, but Biden presided over the most successful economy of our lifetimes. 16 million jobs added, a 50-year low unemployment rate, a record high stock market, 800,000 manufacturing jobs. Donald Trump would kill for those numbers. The guy is literally losing jobs and has the audacity to claim that the president who added the most jobs in history is somehow a poor steward of the economy. Look, if I was a Trump voter, I would not only be furious that this business genius Donald J. Trump can't stop destroying the US economy, but I'd be even more furious that his sole priority while doing it is gaslighting us about Joe Biden. And yet, that's all that Donald Trump has. He doesn't actually know how to govern, he only knows how to attack the people who do know how to do what they're doing. He'll spend all day bitching about Obama and Biden and Hillary and Jerome Powell and AOC. Donald Trump is the president. He's in charge. He's got the reins. Maybe a little less time complaining about how he's the victim and a little more ownership of responsibility for the ways in which he, as president of the United States, is failing this country. Trump is leading the party of personal responsibility. It is about time he started taking some. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.